welcome back to the show. Now, this week on Travel Tuesday, we're going pirate hunting around the country. We're starting with Ireland's most famous pirate queen, Grace O'Malley. Michelle Walsh-Jackson, our novel traveller, joins us now. You're very welcome back to the show.
Elaine.
I love Grace O'Malley and the stories around her in Grania, Wales. She's a legend.
Oh, absolutely. A strong, feisty woman. Incredible stories all about her. And I actually went to her home, which was all around the Clew Bay area. She left her legacy on Clare Island and Achill Island and all these places. She's actually a 16th century character. And the O'Malley clan were a very important family in the whole area at that time. They had a shipping business, so-called shipping business, you know yourself. And she went off and visited loads of famous people. But the Clew Bay bike trail follows her steps. And from Westport, you can see her statue at Westport House. And then I got myself an e-bike and I cycled the start of the trail through past Croagh and popped off at the famine statue with John Behan there on the way to Runa, which is the first point where you get a ferry to Clare Island. And Clare Island is where it gets really interesting, because this is where she had a home, and it's where she's reported to be buried. And inside the old abbey, there are most spectacular medieval paintings, these are 400 years old, and they're in perfect condition, and there's lots of information there that you can find out about on the way. It's a steep old climb now, I have to say, when you're going around Clare Island, up and down. But with my electric bike, I was flying. I actually had some help from Rachel from Rachel's Irish Adventures, who's an expert in the area, and she was able to help us on that part of the journey, that leg.
So you stayed in Mayo for the first part of it all, really?
I did, but I also then went to Achill Island to continue, just to finish the Clew Bay trial. You do go to Achill on the way, and it's the best way to do the 106-kilometre loop. And they've got wonderful things to visit on Achill Island, like Irish American whiskey, and they also have Achill Island sea salt, where you can see how sea salt is harvested, and Keem Bay, of course, which Keem Bay is probably the most famous beach at the moment. It's kind of the go-to place. And that's actually the home of where Charles Boycott lived. You know, he gave voice to the name Boycott, where all his tenants ignored him and wouldn't work with him, wouldn't give him his money. So that's where we get the rise of the name Boycott there. But Achill Island is fantastic. And the best way to do this Clew Bay bike trail, I think, is to kind of stop over and spend as long as you can on each island. It's a great way to see the whole area. Yeah.
And so if you're staying around there, what should you do?
I stayed in Westport itself, in the Wyatt Hotel. It's a lovely 3-star hotel, right in the middle of the town, which makes it really handy. There's such great life there, and it's a real buzzing town. And they have good prices for the autumn, $440 for 2 nights, for 2 people, bed and breakfast. That's all in. So that's really good value. And also, while you're in Mayo, go and see other places like North Mayo. The last great house is Ennisco House. And they've recently announced a new partnership with the National Parks and Wildlife Service. They've got lots of rare breeds of goats and cattle that were around in Grania, Wales time. You know, the Irish Moyles cattle and the Clodder sheep and the old Irish goats. So it's kind of a unique place to stay. And that's €115 per person for bed and breakfast.
And next up, we're going to some place that sounds very, very healthy. I know a lot of fitness fanatics who head to Delphi.
Well, that's the Adventure Centre, but this is Delphi Lodge, which is actually quite posh. This is where Prince Charles stayed.
This sounds much more like my taste.
Now, I was absolutely, and you know what, Elaine, this would be a great place to go for a girls' away weekend, because they have got a selection of beautiful cottages now. And you would think, being part of Ireland's Blue Book and all that's going to be quite expensive. No way, the cottages are $240 per night. That's from the end of August and through September. So say yourself, 3 gal pals, pop off, $240 for the night, €60 each. I mean, you can't go wrong, and that's something really, really lovely.
Now, we're keeping with the pirate theme, but we're bringing Grace O'Malley to Dublin. And of course, you'd have to mention what's out your backyard.
I have to bring her to my backyard, because Grace O'Malley, there's a great legend about her in Howth when she stopped off on her way back from seeing Queen Elizabeth I in 1593. And she knocked on the door of Howth Castle, feeling very kind of tired, and asked for refuge, thinking she was, she's a superstar in the West. This little castle on the East should be nice and friendly. But they weren't very welcoming to her. So she kidnapped the grandson and heir, Christopher St. Lawrence. And she said, because of their behaviour, she would only return them if they always promised to set a place for any weary traveller seeking refuge that called by. So right to this day, they still set a place, to keep the legend going, to make sure nothing happens to the family line.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And if you're out this way, I have to say, there's a fantastic accommodation down the road for me, the King Citric. They're celebrating 50 years in business, and it's the King Citric. Actually, Elaine, I think I brought you there.
Well, I'm glad you remember, because I don't remember much about that evening.
But, they have a fabulous East Cafe bar, and you've got the lovely view of Ireland's Eye and the harbour and all. And they do a lovely overnight bed and breakfast stay for $170 per room. And that's great.
Do you know, when we think of pirates, we always think of Grace O'Malley and Ireland, but Irish women pirates, they travel the world, because Anne Bonny was the most famous female pirate of the Caribbean, and her story is Dublin-based.
Absolutely. Grace is probably a female pirate of all time. She went off to live in Carolina and married James Bonny, but poor old James wasn't excited enough for her. And when they moved to the Bahamas, she hooked up with Calico Jack. Now, Calico Jack is actually the character who inspired Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So you're talking about a real swashbuckling time in history. And this woman, Anne Bonny, apparently she fought off the guards, and all the men were kind of too drunk on the ship, and the men were all taken off and they were hanged. But she was pregnant, so she claimed, you can't hang me, and that's how she got away. And she escaped, and she kind of disappeared, and she was found like a decade later. So she's quite a clever woman. Yeah. But you can find out all about her at the Epic Museum in Dublin, and they are giving free places for kids for the rest of August. And there's loads of great characters and heritage. It's a great place to visit. $16.50 for adults, but as I said, free for kids. So that's something nice to do, and you can find out more about pirates and all sorts of characters there.
Yeah, because my gang were actually in Epic a couple of weeks ago, and they saw the Anne Bonny, because it's nice to be able to come to Dublin and see all about the Irish diaspora in Epic. Of course, originally Anne Bonny was from Cork. I would correct that, because I'd be murdered otherwise. But if you need to find out her story and of any of the people who've emigrated from Ireland, the Epic Museum is a brilliant place to go to.
And because of the time of the year that's in it, I just have a little package here for any girls that are coming up to Dublin. They often team up with Epic. The Clayton Hotel in Cardiff Lane often, will give tickets to places and visits. And they have a package that includes spa treatment, wine, dinner, and everything for $3.30 per person. So for anybody thinking of a nice little getaway for the autumn, that's there.
Now, what's in Wexford? There's some cool things in Wexford for us to look at.
There is. Well, if you say you've got little people who love pirates and they want to do a hands-on pirates experience, well, Hortown has had the Pirates Cove open for several years now, for decades. I brought my own kids down there when they were very small. And, it's a great place to go. You've got crazy golf, you've got bowling, you've got little go-kart rides. There's just so much to do. It's at least a full day's entertainment. And, of course, there is a full-size shipwreck. Now, the golf course, €42 for a family. Bowling is €33 for a family. But if you go on my website there, you'll get the link to the piratescove.ie. And, of course, everything now, you book beforehand, book online, get your slot when you can visit.
Indeed. And finally, for today, we're going to God's country.
We are indeed. We're going to a pearl in the string of treasures that you have down there in West Cork, Elaine. And Baltimore, oh my God, who wouldn't be wowed by beautiful Baltimore? But of course, it's a terribly sad story about Baltimore, because back in 1631, there was a huge raid by Algerian Barbary pirates, and they sacked the entire town. They were actually, another man was a traitor. It was a sailor in the area, and he kind of, in order to get his own release, he kind of handed up the entire town of Baltimore. So 107 inhabitants were taken, brought off to North Africa and sold. But there is on Inishbeg, which is a little island, you can reach it by road actually, right beside Baltimore. And they have a pirate trail, which is great to bring little people, and you can learn about the names of different pirates that lived around then and that were involved in the raid, and characters that were involved. It's a fantastic idea. It's a lovely thing to do. It's only €6 per adult, and kids go free again. So that's Inishbeg. Now, they have lovely accommodation, but it's so complicated because they've got so much options. I just put a link on my website for people if they want to find out about staying down there in that beautiful part of the country.
Thank you so much, Michelle, as always, for sharing your treasured pearls of wisdom for our little pirate.
Treasure for Pirate Day.
Indeed, indeed. And of course, no Travel Tuesday is complete without a prize. And last time we teamed up with Ireland's Blue Book and had a one-night B&B with a dinner for two people sharing at #1 Perry Square Hotel and Spa. The winner for this is Sally Dunn from Monaster Evan in County Kildare. So this week is no different. To celebrate the official start of the autumn season at the 5-star Glenlow Abbey Hotel and Estate in Galway, they're offering one lucky viewer the chance to win a fabulous Revive and Glow autumn escape for two people sharing. Now, to enter this, just head over to our Facebook page for all the details. Now we'll take a quick break. Catch us back here in 3.